Welcome to episode 3 of North of the Boards, presented by Jackpot City Casino, a hockey podcast that takes you across the NHL and in Toronto Maple Leafs land. Here in Toronto, I'm here in Toronto. I'm Dave Pagnotta. That's Shawn Belle in Edmonton. Bellsy, did you get pumped with snow as much as we did here, or are you doing all right?
No, we actually we're starting to warm up a little bit. So I'm excited because I'm not a cold weather person. Every time it gets, minus 10, it might be a little bit soft, but minus 10, I question myself every single day as to why I live in Edmonton. So I'm happy to share our beautiful weather with you lovely folks in Toronto.
Thank you. Means a lot to us.
Sharing is caring, Dave.
Yeah, hey, that's what it's all about, right? People helping people. Sharing is caring. But I tell you what, if you keep sharing as much as you are after this week, we're gonna have problems. So,
no, I get that. I fully get that. But you got to have a little bit.
We'll get it. We'll get a tiny bit. We got a lot on the show here today. Going to jump into a variety of different topics. The New York Islanders making 2 trades to start the week to bolster up their roster. Vancouver Canucks are a mess. Tampa's rolling. What the hell's going on in Toronto with the Leafs? We'll dive into all of that and a lot more. And of course, we're also going to be joined by Jason Demers, former NHL defenseman in the National Hockey League. He's with NHL Network. He's going to jump on the program as well in about 8 minutes time to chat with us about all things National Hockey League. But first, Bellsy, New York Islanders. They add Carson Soucy on the back end. They add Andre Palat, who they've slotted into their top 6 alongside Bo Horvat and Emil Heineman right now. Number 81 up front, number 4 on the back end. The Isles are loading up a little bit. And Matthew Darche talked about their GM, said he wanted to reward his team for doing as well as they have this season by giving them more of a chance and more reinforcements to give them a chance at making the playoffs and maybe going on a run. What do you think of those moves?
I thought there were savvy moves and players that could come in and contribute right away. I mean, you look at Soucy, going back to a couple deadlines ago, like he was a very sought after defenseman because he plays a playoff style hockey game. He makes it hard for opposing teams. And I like to use a phrase like he doesn't give up anything for free. And so, teams have to earn it when he's on the ice. And I think that's a great move. Palat obviously is another great move, adds more depth up front. And it makes the Islanders a harder team to play against because if you look at where they're at and the Eastern Conference, you never know what's going to happen right now in the Eastern Conference. Well, they've been playing pretty well. They've been playing good hockey. They've shaken the narrative of, hey, we're the Islanders, we're boring, we're slow, we trap it up. They're an upstart team, and it's kind of all brought on by Matthew Schaefer. And so if you have the ability to go out and bolster your team to see if you can start to, solidify yourself in the upper echelon of your division, I think you have to do it, and good for Matthew Darche on doing those things.
And there's familiarity, right, between Darche and Palat back in their Tampa days when I think he was director of player personnel before he got elevated to assistant GM, Matthew Darche I'm talking about, and then as he comes over to the Islanders. So that familiarity's got to be important, right? He's got to believe that, let's first call it what it is. Palat's not had a good season. 10 points on the year's scratched. They tried moving him out. By the way, New Jersey retained 0 on this deal. So that familiarity between now GM and player, that's got to be important.
Oh, it's very important. I mean, if you think about it, the league is littered with examples of guys that, have gained the trust of GMs or coaches. And those are the guys that continue on with those particular coaches, GMs, in different franchises. I can remember going back to Tom Pyatt days with Guy Boucher. He had him in Hamilton before he ended up playing in Montreal. And guess what? As soon as he went to Tampa, where did Pyatt end up? He was there. So, that trust is it's important. And even if you go back to when Darche was still there, well, guess what? Palat didn't really actually want to leave. He was a casualty of the cap because the Lightning were such a good team and they were building something special out there. So you got a guy that didn't want to leave. He wanted to be loyal to that. He wanted to stay to that. And he's now kind of, jumped to a couple different spots. But that loyalty, in my opinion, doesn't go away. And I think that's partly why Darcy brought him back too.
Yeah, I like the move as well. And they still have about $6 million in cap space. So they've got flexibility. The Islanders, after making these moves, still have a solid amount to play with. And they have the extra, that I guess, extra space because they moved Siplikov over to New Jersey. And he has, I think his cap hits 2.25. So it freed up basically $4 million or just under in cap space for them in terms of, or eating up that much by moving Siplikov out. So, a good bit of business, certainly by Darsh. And who knows? Who knows what he does either before the Olympic break or right after. There's 12 days after the Olympic break ends or the freeze ends, I should say, and the trade deadline on March 6th. So a lot of movement potentially for the Islanders. And if they keep propelling forward, who knows? Maybe they make another ad.
Yeah. It's something that I think is it's important because now, there's a little bit of runway between now and when the Olympic break hits for them to truly see what their team looks like. And if they feel like they're going and there's some chemistry forming there, well, maybe we go out and we use that $6 million at the deadline, and you bring in an impact player like that could push them over the top because right now, from a standings perspective, like they've got 52 games and there's 61 points. They're 8 points behind the Carolina Hurricanes for first in the Metro. If you get hot, you never know what could happen. Carolina, yeah, they've been good, but if you add that star player or a $6 million player to the Islanders, what happens to that lineup? Could that get you, kind of over the top and to start to catch the teams ahead of you?
Yeah, and I was mentioning West. Maybe they go out West. Maybe they go to Vancouver. We'll get to them in a second. I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, Jason Demers will be joining us. Guess what? He's here. JD, welcome to the show, buddy. Welcome to North of the Boards. How you doing?
And I got Dave Pagnotta and the legend Shawn Belle. Beller, what's going on, my man?
Oh, not much, man. How are you?
I love this duo right now. I'm so stoked. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for taking the time to jump on with us. We were just talking about the Islander moves, and I'd love to get your take on basically strengthening this roster. Add Soucy on the back end. You bring in Palat, and obviously you're hoping that the performance, and even Andre Palat acknowledged that he has not had the best of seasons. He's hoping for more, but the 200-foot game that he plays is going to be important for this club. Just your assessment of those additions.
Well, I think, zooming out, like what Matthew Darsh has done in a short period of time of putting his fingerprints on this team has been exceptional. I think like he's turned a lot of these, he turned so much into, he turned so little into so much. And, you look at Siplikov and it just didn't pan out. And sometimes teams will think that, they'll just hold on a little bit too long and they won't be able to get a return. And I think getting a Palat and the picks that they end up getting, I mean, it's going to help them down the road. You bring a guy in, listen, Andre hasn't played great, but he has a winning pedigree. He's somebody that understands what it takes to get to the playoffs and win cups, multiple cups. So when you look at that, all that stuff's so invaluable to a team. And then you look for Carson Soucy. Am I somebody that's really high on Carson Soucy? No. But do I think he can provide value for this team? 100%. I think they need a little bit of D depth. They've had some injuries. And if they're expecting, like when you see this kind of pickup in my mind, if I'm in that locker room, I'm like, okay, Matthew Darch thinks we're going to go on a deep run and we need reserves and we need guys that can get us there. So for me, that gives me confidence because even though they've had these injuries that they've had and they've had some big ones to some key players, he's putting confidence in them and he's being like, okay, these guys that are injured, they might potentially be going a deep run. We may be able to get one or two back. So we have confidence in what we have in that locker room. And to me, if I'm a player, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. Let's keep going. He believes in us. He's not just going to, hold pat. He's like, okay, let's bring in some key pieces that may not look like much on paper, but I think are good veterans that can help the youth and also kind of unlock a few of their guys that have kind of struggled at times. I look at Andre Palat and Jonathan Drouin specifically, like that's a good pair that could maybe they could unlock. He could help unlock Johnny, and I think that'd be a big thing for this team.
We were mentioning as well, like they've got still another $6 million in cap space. So if things go according to plan, Darsh may add another piece. And if he does, is it getting more depth on that back end, do you think? Or would it be more beneficial for them to add a little more firepower up front?
It's tough because, with that cap space, I'm always a big, I think the biggest thing right now in the league that a lot of teams are looking for is center depth. I think you can always look to bolster your center depth. There's a couple guys out there I look at, and I'm not the insider, but guys that I've been staring at is like Jonathan Taves is one for me that I think's played a lot better than people think. This Jets team is a mess right now. And then Nazem Kadri, I know there's been rumors out there he's around. Somebody's going to get him. I think Craig Conroy is going to finally have his hand forced to kind of initiate this rebuild he's been trying to put off. And I think it's a good fit. It's just going to be very interesting to see because I don't think you want to mortgage what you have with the Islanders because I don't know if this is a team that can win a Stanley Cup. You obviously have the goaltending to do it, which is the most important key factor for me. And then you also have some foundational pieces, but to get all the way through, the East and then, you're looking at the Colorados and it's going to be tough for them. So I don't know if you want to, I think for him, I'm looking at what's the duration and length of time I can keep this team very competitive to have a ton of playoff appearances and deep runs. And I think that's going to be the goal, especially with Matthew Schaefer and what they've brought in terms of youth there.
So let's shift from one area of progression with the New York Islanders gunning for the postseason to another of, I don't even know what to call it. It's a mess out there in Vancouver. They've made some moves, JD, and it looks like there's more to come, whether it's Vander Kane or maybe Elias Pettersson. Drew O'Connor's name's out there. You got Garland, you got DeBrusk, and so on and so on and so on. Just, first of all, from a player's perspective, you're faced with all of this speculation, you've already sold off your captain's gone, all these other pieces, Sherwood's gone, more guys are leaving. What would you think is the energy in the room when A, you're at the bottom of the standings and B, you're just dishing out all of your guys?
Well, I watched that game last night. It looked like an AHL team playing an NHL team, and that's the San Jose Sharks. And again, they got Macklin and all that, but I noticed the first goal of the game was Willander scores this goal and not a smile on his face, nothing. You could see it's been sucked out of that team. And again, rightfully so. You've won one in your last, 10, 11. It's bad. They don't look good. They don't look connected. There's obviously, I've been on some teams that were, very bad and it was depleted. It's very tough to come to the rink every single day, but unfortunately that's what you're paid to do. And you're paid to kind of show up and do your job, but you have to find some fun. You have to find little, you got to keep yourself in it. You're out of it statistically. I was with the Coyotes. We were out of it statistically in November. And they're like, hey, and it's well, what do? Do you just kind of throw in the towel and say, we'll just get, we'll get shit pumped 10-0 every game? Or do you try to find something, play for each other, because again, at the end of the day, people are looking at this to maybe trade you want to go to a better place, you want to have more value, you have to play together as a team. So they're not even doing that. And it's tough because the management, it's tough as a player because when the management, and I say this is as nicely as I can put it, has ruined this franchise in this short a time. It's tough as a player to be just sitting there what the hell's going on? You choose Elias Pettersson. At first you choose JT Miller over Bo Horvat, which I think was the biggest mistake, is getting rid of Bo Horvat. Then you choose Elias Pettersson over JT Miller. And now Elias Pettersson kind of fooled us all with that contract because I don't know if he's a lack of confidence or he just had a couple of really good years. And then now this is what we're going to get from him, which is fine. But for what you're making, I don't know what it is. And they handed the keys over to him. So it's they handed the keys. Yeah. You should have all the confidence in the world. You've kind of outlasted everybody. So you shouldn't be, in the dumps and stress. You kind of have a do what you want card. So to see that, it's tough. So I don't know where they go because at the end of the day, you can't just get rid of everybody. And then you have a bunch of, and you're bad for the next 10 years. You need to keep some pieces. Yeah. So it's deciding who you get rid of. I obviously think on the back end, it's tough. What they gave up for Marcus Pettersson, I don't know if they'd get that if they traded him right now. And you look at Connor Garland, for me, is a piece that I would probably move. I think he'd be highly sought after. I would keep Jake DeBrusk. You got to keep somebody, but I'd keep DeBrusk. Pettersson, Man, what are you honestly gonna get? I think there still could probably be some teams that would pay Beller. I don't know like what you feel about that, but like for me, it's like somebody's gonna want to buy on him. You're gonna have to retain salary though.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna have to retain salary on him, and if you're trying to move him, like you got to move him to a veteran-laden team that has unbelievable leadership, because he's going to be a guy that, like, just based off what I've seen, he's not driving lines anymore. His first couple of years, you're like, oh man, this guy's he's gonna drive some lines. He's gonna be a consistent 100-point producer, but we just haven't seen that lately. So, if you are going to move him, that's the team that he would probably want to go to. But I mean, I don't see a ton of teams lining up to pay a crazy price tag for him and for his production. And especially what happens in the playoffs, like he dips considerably, almost to the point where he disappears. Like I remember that series against the Oilers like it was yesterday, and it was JT Miller that was playing unbelievable hockey. He was playing in your face, right? Like he was kind of the guy that was leading the charge. Dakota Joshua was playing hard. He was impactful in that series. Brock Besser even was putting up points in that particular series, but you didn't see Pettersson. And so when you see that, and most teams want to say, okay, like we want playoff performers. I think we've all seen the song and dance of skilled guys in the regular season. They get to the playoffs, they don't really do a whole lot. Well, guess what? They're not with their teams anymore. I love Mitch Marner. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what we've seen. Right? Yeah, exactly. We've seen that over the course of the last few years, right? So what are you going to get for Pettersson? I don't personally know. I just don't think it's going to be as big as what people or what the Canucks would want.
Would an environment like Detroit be a fit for him because of, Bells, you mentioned like the veteran presence that's there. Yeah. Would that be an environment that might be fortuitous for him, guys?
100%. I think it's, I think any team that's in the top 3 of their division right now, I think would be a good fit for him. But, to Beller's point, which is great, is like, I don't know if a team like that's going to be willing to pay, because I go back to the Huberdeau trade of like they sold him at the high and everybody's like, oh my God, he had a 100-point season. They saw something. I think we all kind of saw that in Pettersson, and we were like, maybe he'll figure it out. And they just kept choosing. If they would have got rid of him, after his big season, instead of kind of paying him, they would have got a huge haul. Now you're retaining salary, and I don't know what you're actually going to get. He needs to play a lot better right now and go on a little bit of a tear in the last 9 games before, if they want anything for him. So, yeah, it's going to be difficult. But I think I like a Detroit. That's a team that stands out for me.
Yeah, like a team for me would be, and probably never happen, but like if you think about the Florida Panthers and where they're at and the type of team that they have, like that's physicality personified, especially in the playoffs. So if you could slide a guy like him into your lineup, maybe he's on the third line, kind of what Marchand did last year, where he's not your top guy, he's not the star guy, but like he's a complimentary player with some other guys that are going to push the pace and, be solid on the forecheck and bang and crash and get you the puck. You probably see a guy that can contribute quite well. But I mean, obviously the Florida Panthers is a pipe dream, because I don't think they have the cap space to obviously bring him in.
Rodriguez and Samoskevich?
Maybe.
And then retain?
I mean, and that's the thing. I don't know if Vancouver has an appetite to retain on that deal, which likely means
I know
the return's going to have to be that much less, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. They're just going to give him away for a bag of pucks, just to clear up 11 and a half mil.
And then he's going to blow up again, and then you're going to sit there going, "Uh-oh."
Exactly. And you're going to look way worse than you already do as management and ownership in Vancouver.
Yeah, what did we just do? Good job, boys. Well, yeah. I mean, that's for them to figure out. They don't pay us for that. So good luck on all those decisions. Boys, I want to shift a little bit to, and Belzy, I know we're going to get to story time a little bit later on in the show, but before we let JD go, I got to ask, we have the Olympic break coming up, and for the first bit, for everyone not going to the Olympics, it's basically bye week. And guys are going on vacation, guys are going to the beach. Some guys are going to the mountains and in the snow for some reason. What was your go to? Like, were you a beach guy, or were you like a ski hill guy, or what are some takeaways from your day when you had your bye weeks?
Well, I mean, for me, I didn't get the opportunity to be in the NHL at an Olympic event. So I can't really specify what I would have done. Now, with that being said, because I spent a lot of time kind of up and down, I probably would have been in the gym. And the reason I say that is because I don't want to give up any opportunity to not be in the NHL. And this is part of story time, but I'm gonna do it now because I played with Steve Gainey, right? So obviously the son of the legendary Bob Gainey. He was just making his way into the league. So I played with him in Hamilton, and he was telling me a story about how there was a break. And what he did is he ended up going to the beach, and he didn't do anything. But he came back apparently so out of shape that they actually said, you know what? Just go down in the minors, and he never had an opportunity again. And the problem with that was that he was working his way to being a steady NHLer. This is with Tampa. And if he just would have came back in shape, we're probably talking about him having a long NHL career because he was a pretty good player and he was a perfect fit in the third, fourth line. So part of what I'm saying is based on the fact that, like, hey, I'm a bubble guy. I got to make sure that I'm ready to go because I can't give up any ounce of space because I want to be in the NHL.
Wow, I'm going to look like a douchebag when I say what I did all the time. No.
Yeah, but you were a regular, man. So
I honestly, but I took that mindset a little bit of, when I'd go, I'd try to plan for a couple days and then I'd be back in the gym and I'd try to get a leg up on some guys. Cause I always thought for me, I was like those, and that was just the way I thought the game was. Like the last 5 games of before a break were always super important because a lot of guys would let their foot off the gas. So I always thought I can gain some ground. And then the first few games back from the break, you could take advantage of some guys that are just a little bit sleepy. So I'd always try to kind of work those little moments and be like, okay, this is kind of, I'm not playing much. I've been struggling a bit. I know everybody's going to kind of slow up because they don't want to go into the break hurt or they don't want to go in the Olympics hurt. So they might take their foot off the gas. I can get a leg up on them. I can get a couple steps. I can look good in the coach's eyes and the GM's eyes. And then same thing coming out. But, I started going to early on when I was in the league, I was, listening to other guys and like, everybody goes to Cabo. And I'm sitting there in Cabo at Squid Row with 55 other NHLers being like, what the hell am I doing here? Looking like a tool. And then every year, guys, like, let's go back to Cabo, let's go on the beach and let's go. And I was like, I'm sitting on like a boat fishing and I just see there's like 10 boats lined up of all NHL players. And I'm like, the break is for me to get a break. I don't need to be here talking to guys, talking to somebody on the Calgary Flames about how their season's going. I'm just trying to get here to like blow off some steam. So, I started to look for different areas to go, like things that I wanted to do, so sometimes it'd be the snow. Me and my wife did one when we were dating. We went to Moab, Utah, and we went to this like little retreat and it was like a spa, but it was like, I just, did massage and sauna and we'd have some wine at night, but it was like more of like a recovery, but we did some hiking. So it was like kind of some unique stuff like that. But yeah, the initial, I always just was like Cabo, was for me was fun for the one time I did it. And then after I was like, I don't want to have to come here to see every single hockey player that I've seen for the past 12 months again for another 5 days, just drinking, trying not to get food poisoning before the season starts in some greasy Mexican bar you gotta order the drinks with no ice and you can't have we can't drink the water and you gotta watch out what you're bathing with and brushing your teeth with. So I was like, I'm just gonna be a little bit more highbrow and go to Moab, Utah and pretend I'm doing some spiritual awakening getaway.
That's the one thing about being in Europe. I'll tell you, when we had our national team breaks, like I went to Budapest. Yeah, like they're really good. I went to Budapest for like 7 or 8 days one time. That was unbelievable. I hit Rome. I did Salzburg. Guys would go to like these random spots. Like one was like, I think Gran Canary Islands, which is just like off the western tip of Africa. And like people would go missing, man. Like there you wouldn't get a hold of people when you're playing in Europe because they'd be in the western tip of Africa. I've got German guys telling me to go to Cyprus. Now, if you find Cyprus on a map, one half of it is like warships, and then the other half is like luxury personified. Like, it's the craziest thing. So when you're in Europe, you have lots of spots where you're not going to run into anybody else. And there's some pretty cool cities that you can end up in.
That's so funny you say that, because the Europe does it way better, like the leagues, because you get almost a week off every month. And even in Russia, guys would go to like, Dubai, and it's awesome. So I was in, the lockout year, I went and played in Finland. So I'm in, bumfuck North Finland, Oulu, an hour away from the North Pole. And we're about to get on our national team break. So I'm kind of like, I want to go do a trip. So we had 1 or 2 imports. It was me, Kyle Turris, a couple other guys were there, UC Jokinen. And then, as we're playing, you kind of meet the other imports because there's not many of you. So you guys are kind of like, Facebooking each other back there. It was like 2012. So you're like Facebooking each other. Hey, what's up? What are you doing for the national team break? So we're like, hey, let's go. One of the guys is like, you have to go to Helsinki. So you go to Helsinki, and then you take a ferry from Helsinki to Stockholm. And it's like a party ferry, and it's like a cruise ship. Then it's like short, and you go overnight, and it's a party. There's a casino on board. Like, all the young kids go there. It's like chicks everywhere. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm in. Like, let's go. Like, we're going. So we show up, and we go in. We're like 4 imports. We're going to Stockholm. We get on the cruise. We're like kind of walking around. We're like, oh yeah, okay. There's a lot of old people on this cruise. We're like, wow, there's a lot of 60-year-olds, and we're like, what's going on? So we like go to the casino. It's like closed. The club is like playing like swing music, like dance music. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I go to somebody in the ship. I'm like, isn't this like the party ferry? And they're like, no, the party ferry just like left earlier this morning. This is like the second ferry. So we're sitting on this ferry. It was like the geriatric ferry. Like, it was like Carnival cruise. So we're just like, well, we might as well go to bed at like 8 p.m. and wake up in Stockholm. So that was our kind of like trip, thinking we're all sly going on this cool trip to Stockholm with all these, Finnish and Swedish babes. And we just ended up with, Grandma Sue and playing mahjong before we got over to, Stockholm. So it's pretty funny, but
that's amazing.
For the most part, they're good stories.
And then I'm assuming there was a visit to Oprah.
Yes.
In stuff.
Yes.
That never happens, does it?
Oprah, yes.
Yeah. That never happens.
I don't know if Rose Club was around back then, but that's another one that's also pretty good in Stockholm.
It's a good town. That's a good town.
It is. It's a fun place. Very, very picturesque. Very nice.
Yeah.
This has been very nice. JD, really appreciate you taking the time here to join us. Talk a little hockey, talk a little story time. Hopefully we can do this again, man.
Yeah, let's do it. Appreciate you guys having me on, and keep it rolling. I love the jacket, buddy.
Word for you.
Yeah, exactly. And Pags, I'll see you somewhere or nowhere.
Oh, well done.
Yes, there you go.
Yes, you will.
I like that reference. I like that reference.
You got that one.
I like that.
Okay.
Well done.
Right, nice work.
See you soon, buddy. Head to jackpotcity.ca and catch your bonus today. Play like a champ. Win like a champion. Chaos or calm, Jackpot City keeps you in the action. Jackpot City has tons of slot games, massive jackpots, and bonuses that keep you going while we keep the conversation rolling. Head over to jackpotcity.ca, grab your welcome bonus, and play responsibly. Let's jump in on this now. Let me see what we got here. And as we're going to do this, we're going to chat about the Montreal Canadiens in this one. Why? Because I'm betting 60 a slot here, 60 a pull. So Jose Theodore, Montreal Canadiens, 60 is what we're throwing down here on each pull. Let's see how we do on this one. We'll keep this one going. Montreal Canadiens, Jose Theodore, we got to connect to the Habs. The Habs are a team right now as we get close to the Olympic freeze. They're looking to add a little bit up front. This has been a team that everyone's kind of looking at going, it's 2C. They got to bring in another center. But Oliver Kapanen has been absolutely fantastic in between Ivan Demidov and Uri Slavkovsky, as we just pull a nice little $600 W on this one. So we'll keep that going, and I'll keep the conversation here going. The Habs, yeah, center position is key, but they've got that piece. I think what they're looking at now is help up front. If they can add some more firepower, and they're getting Line A back and some reinforcements, but if they can get another scorer to go on that top line that connects well with Suzuki and Caulfield, I could see that being a big pull for the Canadians and something that they're going to look at, not just between now and the roster freeze ahead of the Olympics, but also afterwards going into the trade deadline. I'm going to keep this one going. We're going to keep the conversations going here on North of the Boards. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. Thanks for playing with us at Jackpot City Casino. Now let's get back to the show. And we're going to keep going with this, like all show. Like this show, next week, everything like that. We join again next week. Anthony Stewart will be on the program as well, doing our Tuesday show. And then, of course, we've got us every Thursday as well. And then during the Olympics, we're going to kind of modify things, shift them up a little bit and get to all that. But drop in little Easter eggs, little clues here now and again. If you pick up on them, kudos. Good job on that one. Make sure you subscribe as well. To North of the Boards on YouTube. Drop your comments in as well. We'll get to those as the show progresses. And if you get any of these Easter eggs, make sure you add that to the comments because we'll acknowledge them and give you props for figuring it out. Sly Devils, you. Bellsy, let's jump over to Tampa if we can. And the Tampa Bay Lightning, like everybody's talking about Colorado just being an absolute force in the Western Conference. Well, guess what? Tampa, since November, ridiculous. And they are atop the Eastern Conference. They're rolling. They're clicking. They have been doing it through injuries. Like, there's no Victor Hedman right now. He's coming back.
Yeah.
But that point's been hurt. Cirelli's missed some time. And they're getting things done with this group. Hagel, Kucherov, and Darren Radish leading the way.
It's been a very interesting, I guess, season for them. And the reason I say that is because if you look at the start of the season and how they started, yes, guys were, they weren't coming out. They weren't playing as hard. I think there was a little bit of a hangover from the playoffs, which sounds absolutely crazy for me to say.
Right.
But when you think about the emotional, physical toll that their short playoff season had against the Florida Panthers, well, it kind of makes sense. There was lots of nonsense that happened in that series. It was a war, like every single game. And then you get into the season, you play the Florida Panthers, and what happens in the preseason? It's a war.
Yeah,
and
bloodbath.
It was a complete bloodbath. And the way that those games were played, it just seemed like it took an emotional toll and a physical toll out of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And so you get into the season and, you're not quite ready to go. You've got some guys that they're a little bit banged up. They're not playing the way that they should be. They come out a little bit slow. And you look at it and you're like, okay, well, is this the end of the Tampa Bay Lightning? Like, is this over? But they found a way to kind of get through some of that slow start, that sluggishness to the start of the season, the fighting to the start of the season that you saw basically every other night, where it was Curtis Douglas or Sabrin going crazy on everybody. You saw them work their way out of that to the point where now they're playing really inspired hockey. They're probably one of the best teams in the NHL, not named the Colorado Avalanche, like I think you mentioned earlier. And so it's been it's been fascinating to watch. And also, like you mentioned, it's happening on the fact that there's star players are hurt. And it's showcasing their depth. It's showcasing, some of these secondary scoring that they have. And this could be a scary team as it continue to get players back, and you have your Olympic break, and whether points can be healthy enough for that. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But if he has that time off and he gets healthy, and you get into that, that push, that playoff push, they could be a scary hockey team.
And you know what's going to be scary about them? They're looking to add. And Julien Brisebois, their GM, is out there looking to see what diamonds in the rough there may be. Maybe he's not even looking for that. Maybe he's looking for just top talent. He's been linked to Blake Coleman in Calgary, but they've got a few prospects. They don't have a deep cupboard, but they've got a few guys that are apparently available that they're willing to move. Sam O'Reilly's one of them. He was on the Canadian junior team. He's 19 now, but he's a carrot that they're willing to dangle in order to help this team even further now. So between that and always finding little gems that really just take off,
Yep.
like Darren Radish. Like he had, 37, 39 points last season? He had 30 the year before. He's a point per game player now and has been outstanding with JJ Mosier on that blue line in Victor Hedman's absence. And for me, I mean, I never played at any level, at any major level. And that just goes to show you when guys are given an opportunity, there's so much talent. It takes so much skill to make the National Hockey League that if you're given an opportunity like Radish has been given and he goes off, it shouldn't even be a surprise because of how talented these guys are.
Yeah, I completely agree. And there's always conversations of, players that are playing the minors that, don't have that opportunity, don't have the fortune, the luck because of organizational depth and stuff like that, where it's just like, yeah, this guy could be playing there. But yeah, they've done a great job of finding players that can contribute. And I think that's one of the things that for NHL teams, GMs, you have to find players like that. Because yes, it's a draft and develop league. We've seen that homegrown talent is kind of how you build your teams. But at the same time, it's like that one waiver wire gamble that pays off. It's that one, nothing trade that, it happens in the summer and most people are like, they write it off. It's like, whatever, nothing really happened. But guess what? Those are the ones that can push the back end of your roster. That is the depth. And those are the guys that can come in, give you quality minutes, especially when guys are hurt. And that's what you're seeing. As we were talking, I was looking up what their cap space looks like. And like they've got $3 million without offloading another player. So if you're going and you're taking a swing, like you can probably give up some roster player plus your $3 million. Like you're probably finding a pretty talented hockey player, which is going to push you over the edge a little bit more. And we probably are going to expect another Battle of Florida because that's just what happens. So it's just going to add more fuel to that fire. And it's something I'm excited for. But Tampa Bay, once again, like I mentioned, is going to be a scary hockey team.
$3 million cap space, move a roster player. Blake Coleman's cap hit is 4.5. Maybe.
Maybe.
Let's go
Bobby
to another
McMahon out of Toronto. Like, could he be a guy that could come in?
Yeah, perfect. That's where I wanted to go. Perfect segue over to Toronto.
Oh, perfect.
Because they want, we don't know. First of all, I don't think anybody knows what the heck is going on with the Toronto Maple Leafs these days. They were ridiculously hot in the first half of January. They're solid at the end of December going into January. They keep going. Then they head back home and they go 0-4-1. They probably should have gone 0-5, but 0-4-1 on their homestead. They're leaving. They play Seattle. Then they head over on Saturday to Vancouver. Then they've got back-to-backs in Edmonton and Calgary. If this team doesn't win 3 of those 4, Bellsy, I don't know. Like, they've got a lot of questions that they're going to have to ask internally. A lot of mirror-looking, soul-searching, whatever, that Brad Treliving and his staff are going to have to do. And Bobby McMahon, maybe that's a piece they have to move in order to recoup some assets for other moves later on. He'd be a hell of a fit on Tampa. He'd be a hell of a fit all over the place. Yeah. What's going on with this group? How do you go from up here to just bottom falls out?
Well, yeah, I mean, Bobby McMahon would be a great fit in a lot of places.
Oh, yeah.
I had the pleasure of coaching against him when he was still in the AJHL, and you just saw a guy that was, ready for stardom. He was a complete player, and that's what he's brought to the Leafs. So I personally like him as a player. I think he's like a guy that the Oilers should target. and I don't want to bring the Oilers into it, even though there's pictures behind me of the Oilers. But he's a very solid complementary player, and I think he has the ability to play in that middle six. He can elevate to a top six. He can go down, play on your third line, give you valuable minutes. I think he's a really good player. But to answer your question about the Maple Leafs, like, they're a very Jekyll and Hyde hockey team.
Oh, yeah.
And you look at it and you start with, yes, there's injuries, but injuries to me are a bit of an excuse because we just finished talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning, saying, okay, well, they've got tons of injuries, but they're finding a way to do it. And this team, to me, seems like it's got a bit of an identity crisis. Because when you have Nylander in the lineup and you've got Matthews in the lineup, there's a bit of a swagger there. Mm-hmm. There is. And you know, as much as Willie Stiles right now is a little bit under fire for some of the antics that he's had in, you know, last couple of weeks, whatever. When he's playing, he's got some swagger, and he brings that. And I think other players feed off of what he does. I think Matthews obviously feeds off of what he does, but when Nylander's out, well, what do teams want to do? Well, they're just going to shut down Matthews. They're going to focus all their attention on Matthews, which makes it really hard, you know, for him to get going. And then the rest of the lineup, it just seems to me like they're fighting it a little bit. And
like you just personified the problem with the rest of the lineup, deep sigh. Like there's it doesn't seem like there's enough in the tank for this group. And yeah, there's injuries, as you said, but I keep going back to this. Even healthy, they have 4 top 6 forwards. You don't have anyone on the right side for the first line, and you really don't have anyone on the left side of the second line, or you can get a center and move Tavares to the wing. Basically, you need 2 pieces. I don't know what the expectations were. Like, I thought there would be enough in the tank to be a wild card team this season, and maybe they pull it off. They have 29 games left after this one in Seattle. Or no, including this one in Seattle. So, yes, this is a short runway now. And you're lacking. So I don't know what the solution may be other than bite the bullet, move some pieces, talk to Morgan Riley and have a heart-to-heart with him about what he wants to do, and then figure this out in the summer.
Yeah, and it's, well, yeah, you're kind of hitting the nail on the head. And that's kind of why I said, like, this team seems to me looks like they have a bit of an identity crisis because they still want to play that skilled game.
Yeah.
They still want to have that bit of run and gun, but you don't have the horses to necessarily run and gun. Like when you had Marner, as much as Marner's been talked about, he was a 100-point guy. You had now 5 pieces in your top 6 that had the ability to go and play that particular style. You don't have that now. And so you brought in guys that aren't necessarily, you know, top 6 guys. Let's just call a spade. They're probably middle 6 or bottom 6 players. And so you're trying to change your identity where you're going to be a little bit more of a physical team. You're going to be, you know, you're going to compete more. But we sat on here last week and we talked about how some of those guys aren't doing that, who are in that role of third line, fourth line, even bubble players. And so that's why I keep going back to this identity crisis, because your coach is a hard-nosed guy. He wants the team to be hard-nosed, but you still want to play a little bit of that run and gun, flash and dash hockey. So to your credit and to your point, if you go into this road trip and you lose most of the games, 3 out of 4, whatever that looks like, I don't know if you want to pull it all the way down to the studs, but I would give up maybe a few of these pieces to now recoup picks, to restock the cupboards, and then go into next summer with a little bit more cap space to say, okay, this is our opportunity now to maybe take that next step.
The big problem, and I just realized this now, and I forgot about it, but even if they do that and move out some pieces, you better hope you end up with a top 5 pick. Because if you don't have a top 5 pick, that pick's going to Boston. It's top 5 protected. Yes. It was part of the trade for Carlo last year with Fraser Minton. So if you finish 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, you're giving up a top 10 pick to the Boston Bruins, who may pass you and make the playoffs, which is what they're positioned to do right now. So it's a tough, very tough situation for the Toronto Maple Leafs in this scenario.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of mentioned, like, I don't think you fully go down to the studs.
Right.
I think you try to retool on the fly. Because yeah, like Toronto or Boston is one of your biggest rivals. Maybe second to Montreal, maybe first, depending on the year. But yeah, you don't want to fully go down to the studs, because you do then have to try to get that top 5 pick, and you're really not going to be able to. So if you can retool on the fly and say, okay, well, I've got pieces. I've got Matthews. I've got Nylander. I've got Joshua. Like, I've got some good pieces. Can I go out and find complementary players that are going to now take this roster from being, a potential contender to being a contender, and not a team that's, well, wishy-washy of, okay, well, which week are they going to be a potential contender? Like, we want to be that contender, because that was a team, what was it, last year or 2 years ago, that took Florida to 7. That was the team. And so that should have been the building blocks of, where to go and to say, okay, like, we have the team that can do it. Now let's add those pieces. So that's how close they were last year. You've got probably 2 pieces, like you mentioned, away, at least up front, to kind of get back to where you were.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, this road trip is going to be very, very telling for the Toronto Maple Leafs for what they're going to end up doing the rest of this season, or at least up until the March 6th trade deadline. Belsey, this has been fun. Might not be fun in Toronto right now, but let's see how their team does over this next little stretch. But this has been great. This has been another great show here. A big thank you to Jason Demers for joining us. We will be back on Tuesday with another episode of North of the Boards. I'll be rejoined by Anthony Stewart. So make sure you subscribe to North of the Boards on YouTube, smash that thumbs up, and leave your comments on the show. Be sure to follow at North of the Boards on Instagram and TikTok. For Shawn Belle, I'm Dave Pagnotta. This has been North of the Boards, presented by Jackpot City Casino. We'll catch you next week.